By a show of hands, how many of you have been recruited to play a collegiate sport? My apologies. I think I should be more specific and ask how many of us have been recruited to play collegiate sports at a Division I level. I myself had the opportunity to play Division I basketball, but fell short of turning a dream into a reality due to not qualifying through the NCAA clearinghouse because I received a C- instead of a C+. That ruled me ineligible for that season. However, when I went through the recruiting process, I came to the realization of just how corrupt and sneaky the recruiting game really was, and those experiences were interesting to say the least. You have this specific time window where coaches could actually recruit you, and you see them in your practices as well as your games, no matter where you play. However, there was a huge factor in this whole recruiting process, which was that no athletes, their families, or anyone connected to them were allowed to receive any monetary gifts from coaches or institutions because it would result in big penalties for both parties, including the institution and their respective team. In 2019, there was a huge shift in the sporting world for student athletes that resulted in the state of California becoming the first state to pass NIL legislation, the Fair Play to Play Act. And this prohibited the NCAA from punishing student athletes who earn NIL compensation. Then on July 1st, 2021, more states were introduced to the NIL phenomenon, and the landscape flipped the collegiate sporting world upside down, because now you have student athletes legally making the money they rightfully deserve off of their name, image, and likeness. And they are also staying in school as long as they have playing eligibility. When you actually break this down, I'm sure you're thinking how wonderful this is, and yes, it is a great opportunity for student athletes to capitalize off of their own name. However, there are some things that have not been addressed, which have become huge issues for institutions, coaches, the student athlete, and the families as a whole. My name is Dominique Johnson, and I will be addressing these issues as you continue this journey with me as you learn about the inefficiencies of the name, image, and likeness. The design challenge that I'm going to address with you all is the inefficiencies of name, image, and likeness, and the transfer portal in collegiate sports. This issue stood out to me because it hits close to home with me being a collegiate athlete, but also when I'm looking at the evolution of collegiate sports in general. There are pros and cons with the NIL and transfer portal, but the foundation is very inconsistent in my opinion. I want to create a balance between the two parties so everyone can benefit from this new opportunity the right way. Right now, this NIL era is slowly but surely becoming the wild, wild west because every college institution does not have the financial resources to fight this NIL battle and compete athletically because they lack the talent as well as the possible coaches. One of the key points articulated in the article of high majors, mid majors, and low majors are looking at the Power 5 schools versus the mid majors and low majors. With the lack of efficiency of the NIL, it really puts the smaller college institutions at a huge disadvantage, and in the long run makes them struggle. Then as that domino falls comes another one because now you have the transfer portal and many of these student athletes are getting poached from the richer schools and they are leaving right away due to the financial gain. However, the majority of the time, these transfers don't always work out in the student athlete's favor because he or she may not be a good fit for the team, which causes friction, and then the student athlete wants to jump in the portal again because he or she didn't like that situation they were just in. Also, from reading up on the 8 pros and cons of NIL deals, I learned just how pivotal the amount of money these kids were offered swayed their commitment to sign with that specific university. Also, with the money being the main motivator for these kids to sign with these universities, the graduation rate has increased due to student athletes staying in school all 4 years, and sometimes 5 due to a red shirt or a medical red shirt year. And this allows them to actually finish their degree because in order to get paid, you must be eligible, and to be eligible means you will graduate when the time presents itself. My team and I would like to explore ways to help with the inefficiencies of the name, image, and likeness, and create more of a structural plan for the student athletes and the universities to follow when giving or receiving money to play in the NCAA. By doing this, we can prevent or deter the student athlete from being motivated to transfer from school to school because of money being the main factor behind the transfer. Because surprisingly, there are more student athletes entering the transfer portal after just one season at their respective university due to monetary reasons. Also, this causes so many kids who attended junior college to be put on the back burner when it comes to finding a school because you have so many current Division I athletes in the transfer portal, and they usually get the scholarship first since they were already playing Division I basketball. Because of this, they have been going wherever the money is being offered since the beginning of this NIL era. As we continue, the three forms of empathy I chose to focus on was 1. Conversation starters. Out of the 4 people that I chose to interview, I was only able to do one of their interviews in person, which was the student athlete. I felt like this method was best when it came to getting his feedback to the questions I had for him. Being able to read his body language and raw emotions in this setting was very eye-opening for me, as well as him, because no one had really asked him any of the questions I had for him before. The next one is extreme and mainstreams. In this method, I wanted to be sure I included as many people as possible. I was able to get 2 parents from 2 different backgrounds and financial standpoints, as well as a high school coach and a student athlete to complete the list out. Finally, we have immersion. This method became more and more important to me because the time I did follow the student athlete around the campus. I found out just how much attention he brings when he is in the public eye as a real person. The coach was a big help as well because I got to see how he approached things for practice as well as the meetings before then. Here are the key things that stood out to me and my team. For the parents, I was surprised at how excited they were about this new opportunity for their children, but also how quickly their lives changed once the kids signed their letter of intent. There were some issues with the recruiting process because of the money playing a factor where the kid decides to go, and at times there was friction between the parent and the child because the parent figured they could possibly get more money that was originally offered. Overall, the opportunity was a bit overwhelming for both parties, but exciting at the same time because the kid's hard work actually paid off. For the coach, to have an opportunity to coach a kid that brings in much attention to the program because they are nationally ranked does nothing but help the coach with recruiting for the years to come because kids are going to want the same thing to happen to them. So the coach did not really have any issues with the NIL recruiting process because the better his athletes performed, the more high-profile college coaches showed up to practice, and this allowed his other players to get evaluated as well. I was surprised to hear how excited he was about the introduction to NIL because now, with this opportunity creeping into the high school athletic programs, it just makes him recruit harder than he did before. Last but not least, we have the student athlete. And this is a very interesting conversation. The amount of stress, confusion, irritation, and corruption that was experienced made the student athlete not want to go through this experience again. There was so much being thrown at him at once that he didn't know what to do and tried to isolate himself when it actually came time to make a decision on what university he wanted to attend. These recruiting visits were all about the money, and there was rarely conversations on what type of production the student athlete would have on the team, which in actuality eliminated so many schools from contention. Also, to talk about how much money he could receive from different universities caused some friction between him and his parents, which is something he was not expecting. In the end, the kid did not like the process at all, but is blessed to be able to change his life as well as his parents at such an early age. He said that if he was able to have someone do all of the talking for him, that he would do that just so he could focus on school and basketball. When looking at the how might we statement, Johnson and Associates would like to create a bridge to close this continuous gap with the inefficiencies of name, image, and likeness to ensure that student athletes are not entering the transfer portal to chase more money being offered from different college institutions. From the looks of things, we can sense that we do not see the NIL leaving the collegiate game anytime soon. If anything, we see it growing into the super machine that can possibly benefit everyone. However, you want to be able to tame this beast the best way possible and not allow it to get out of hand like it already has. So, my team and I have been throwing out different ideas to figure out how to create some type of balance within this new era which we have entered. Let me be clear that we are all for student athletes making money off of their name, image, and likeness. Honestly, I wish I was able to be compensated for my time playing collegiate basketball, but that ship has sailed, and now the student athletes finally have a voice, and I'm very happy to see this taking place in real time. However, their voice is only loud because of the money being the main factor and not everything else, such as education and finding an actual fit on the team in which you decide to sign your national letter of intent with. So one idea was to limit the amount of times a student athlete could transfer during their collegiate career, but there would easily be a loophole figured out to combat that. Next, we thought about trying to have the high school and junior college kids sign first before the transfer portal actually opened up for student athletes to see what's available. But then we figured that institutions would just wait until the actual date to pass by and then go to the transfer portal and get the student athletes they were after the whole time. So we scratched that idea. Then after all the brainstorming, we finally came up with the best solution, which we named the Reach One, Teach One rule. This means that any student athlete that decides to enter the transfer portal after spending only 1 year at their respective university for higher monetary compensation when they are already attending a Power 5 university will be forced to sit out a year without NIL compensation and will lose that year of eligibility. We decided to create this rule to regain the balance for the student athletes, but also for the kids graduating from junior college, as well as the high school seniors. Last year alone, there were over 1,900 men basketball players and over 1,300 women's basketball players who entered the college basketball transfer portal. Because of this overwhelming amount of student athletes in the transfer portal each year, the other athletes are being pushed to the side while the current and experienced Division I athletes are being recycled around to different schools, leaving everyone else to get whatever is left over and penalizing them for no reason. This rule will level the playing field and make sure every student athlete understands how important this decision is when it comes to choosing the best school for them in all facets of life, and not just having money being the main motivator. So with all that we've talked about, I'm sure you're wondering, how will you test this product? In order to test this, we will first survey the coaches and athletes by asking them their feedback on the current NIL and transfer portal model. Once we have collected that data, we will present our idea and have them give their feedback on the pros and cons of the adjustments we made to that model. Once we have that data, we will present Reach One, Teach One to the NCAA and request a pilot with one of their lower revenue generating sports. Once we have tested the rule out, we will have those coaches and athletes fill out a survey giving us their feedback to see if this is something worth introducing to the sports who are bringing in the bulk of the revenue. On behalf of Johnson and Associates, we want to say thank you for participating in our TED Talk. We hope that you enjoyed it just as much as we do. And at the end of it all, we just want to make sure that these collegiate athletes have the best opportunities to maximize on their NIL, but as well as their education. Thank you.